How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to a new year, a new season, and a new episode of Because We Can. Now, before we jump into anything further, this season of Because We Can is going to look a little bit different. I'm still going to talk about life and reflections and lessons that I learn in my own personal life. But this year, I would like to improve because we can by incorporating different perspectives, different people with their own experiences to add into the mix a little bit more. I would love to have a stronger and greater community and to really bring ourselves together and unite around this common cause of we can do it. Yeah, because we can. We are more powerful than we think, and therefore we are all necessary to this piece of the puzzle we call life. And we're always going to figure it out. We're always going to be at different points in our journeys, and we're not always going to get things right. And let me tell you, 2024 last year really showed me this. And today's episode is going to be a reflection of what I learned and took from 2024. So grab a cup of tea, grab a pen and paper, or if you're not able to, if you're driving in your car or going to the next place at this time, just I hope you can have an open ear and an open heart for some of these reflections that I will dive into in just a short second. But before I jump in, I want to check in with everybody. I know it's been a while since I've had an episode that I've came out with one, and everybody's probably like, "Well, where did Jay go? What happened? Did they just flop and forget about us and just fell off the face of the earth and never came back or had plans to come back?" That's definitely not the case. And I just want to reassure everyone that just like each of us, we go through our seasons, we go through our ups and downs, and I definitely was going through a season behind because we can. A lot of it is kind of like a reflection of what I was going through initially with launching because we can. A lot of doubts, a lot of insecurities, a lot of what ifs. What if this is not going to work? What if I'm not going to be able to stay consistent? What if nobody really gets what I'm trying to say? What if, what if, what if? And this year, I really want to push myself, or I had mentioned this the other day. Instead of the phrase push myself, I want to challenge or make the effort to grow more in a specific area instead of I want to push myself, I want to grow more of myself. With that little tad bit tangent, these are all the things that I was spiraling around and around in my head. And that's honestly the sole reason or the main reason why I kind of fell off. This is a pattern. This is something that I recognize. And maybe there's some things that resonate right now inside of you that is just resurfacing of, yeah, I kind of do that too, or something similar but maybe different. And it's been nagging at you, bothering you these last few years, or maybe more than that, or a little bit less than that. but it's apparent to you and it's something that you want to try to fix or get rid of. But really, what I'm here, why I'm here to do is to let you know that it's not going to you're not going to be able to get rid of it entirely. It's not necessarily That's not necessarily the goal or the aim. It's not even really the healthiest way to go about it. Trust me, like I'm only speaking out of experience. I feel compelled to say that sometimes we think that we need to be fixed, but really there's nothing to be fixed. What's really going on is the fact that our everyday programming is convincing us in a way to try to continuously grow, continuously fix, continuously correct, but we're already whole and divine, you know? And I really want to bring more of that in this mix as well in this new year. How can we get more in touch with our divine being and our divine calling to this earth? I think it was something that I've always wanted to communicate and to bring out of myself, but it just wasn't the time back then. Now it is. So without further ado, I just maybe someone is going through something right now where that message really resonates and is calling to you. So I'm I appreciate the time taken to be able to communicate that before we jumped in. Now, jumping in to the first episode of the year 2025. How is everybody doing? Let's take a quick mental break, a quick check in, and ask ourselves sit or drive or take a few moments to just relax into your body and take a deep breath in and release. One more time and release. I think it's really important to take those few seconds to really get back in touch with ourselves, just to check in every now and then, even throughout the day, to quiet our minds or try at least to disconnect from everything we got going on. I know we have a lot of busyness around us and our minds can go haywire sometimes, but it really helps to center and lock in to what we really want or what we're really going through inside. So, what's popping up for you? What has been, we're not always focusing on the negative, right? What's been a positive that a big win that you've had in the last year coming into this new year, or even starting off this new year? And of course, duality. What has been something that has bothered you or really impacted you, affected you in transferring over into this new year? Taking a bit of time for everyone to connect to themselves at this time. Comment down below or send in a voice message on the podcast. You already know you can do that. I would love to hear from you. I want to be more connected and in tune with each of you. Let me know what's going on in your world. Okay. I promised I would get into it. I know it's 10 minutes in. This is just how I operate. And I hope you're here for it. Okay. I have 5 things, 5 lessons that I got from 2024 that I have been sitting with. So I'm still sitting with things. I'm still processing and finding out how it fits into my life. But I just thought I'd share in this moment so that I can release some of these things, these lessons, so that they can actualize and fortify and be bigger and brighter than contained inside. So the first lesson that I really took from 2024, and this came more so in the beginning or the first half of 2024, and kind of trickled into the later half of the year, is the key behind true mastery and opening up one to infinite opportunities and potential. Actually, I found has came from specializing, finally deciding on honing in on a craft or a passion or a position at work even. It doesn't always have to be our personal endeavors, but a lot of times it does connect to that and it should be encouraged in our personal matters, personal lives. But I really found this came in the form of my career. I know over the last couple years, maybe 3 years now, I've actually even maybe four or five. Shoot, time goes by so fast. Who agrees with me? But yeah, ever since I left the post office, I used to work in a lot of different lines of work, but the most recent one that was 9 to 5 was the post office, and it was a great job. It was good, but ever since then, when I left that that field of work, I started pursuing entrepreneurship and independent contracting and found myself in the audiovisual world, in the event world. I refound myself in the event world. I used to do that back in college and never even knew about it. Never even knew that I was a part of that incredible field. But yeah, I finally decided and honed in on narrowing down my focus and what I wanted to master and learn more in. And to give an example, there's different departments in the audiovisual sector of setting up events. And a lot of the times, even when I first started, I was like, well, I want to learn everything. That's a natural tendency for a lot of us is to want to know everything and dive in all at once. And it can be really good and necessary for one's growth, like in the initial stages or the beginning stages of learning something new. But then with everything, there's different stages. As you go through each of the stages, you start to realize, oh, well, if I don't decide on one area or taking things one at a time and building upon each thing, you kind of are in a field of chaos, just constantly bombarded by this endless opportunity to grow. I don't know if that makes sense to those of you out there who happen to be multi-passionate people or may even specialize in one thing but are curious about learning other things or other uh, trades, what have you. So I always encourage to follow your heart and what speaks to you, even if it's multiple things. But as a multi-passionate person myself, I am still learning how to ebb and flow. I think that's the key that I was learning at that time and still am, is it's okay to accept the pathway of breaking down one area a little bit further so that when you finally master or become a little bit more of an expert in that field or in that area, you can start to expand a little bit and grow upon that and build on top of what have you, right? I never realized that before. And so, to make a long story short, I really started to see my growth in my field of expertise get exponentially greater. And I was presented with more opportunities to work in more advanced positions. And, the list goes on and on. But I was really proud of myself, and I wanted to take some time to just celebrate those wins of taking that risk and taking my time in learning the ins and outs and more of the details versus the big picture, challenging my worldview and my perspective of it doesn't have to be only one way, which is an interesting thing because I always believed in it doesn't have to be one way, and yet I find the contradictions. If you're following what I'm throwing out, you always find the contradictions of yourself and the beliefs you hold, right? And that's what's so awesome about being willing to challenge our perspectives and our belief systems. Because we, on the other side of that, learn so much more than we ever could just by staying contained and, oh, this is just the way that I like it, or this is just the way that had worked for me in the past. That was my story. But I'm learning that the more I perfect or progress in an area and give it some time to marinate and to really get that juiciness of what is it? Richness. I become even richer in that sense. So that's number 1. Number 2 is building connections and taking the necessary time to do that as well. Opening up to new opportunities and groups of people. So with this, I it brings me to my opportunity that was presented to me, and I'm super thankful for in the line of nonprofit work and getting back in touch with advocacy initiatives that I've always been trying to call in over the last few years, but there was always a blockage in that. And I just had limiting self doubt and limiting beliefs about a, a point in my life that came before last year that was still holding on to me and weighing me down and convincing me that I was not equipped enough, that I was not prepared enough, or that I was in a position to give back. And it sounds so crazy repeating it back out loud, but I know I know a lot of us out there can can really connect with this, but taking a risk and letting yourself giving yourself permission to just see where things go can be another key to success and in unlocking what it is that you've always desired and have always thought you could do, but doubt yourself that you could do. So, building connections in a way where, when you start to gravitate towards that passion of yours, or set yourself up in a way where you place yourself in different causes or different organizational spaces or different spaces outside of work, creative spaces, creative endeavors. When you just take a shot and show up to nonprofit organizational meeting, or show up to a open mic night, or show up to a get together with friends that may not be your direct friends, but of a group of friends that are mutual, you know? Building connection in that way is what I mean. And in my life, I definitely was able to unlock a lot of life lessons just in and of itself, just in and of going out of my getting out of my own way and really taking that chance to help organize nonprofit events for my partner's grandmother's nonprofit, Arethia's House of Purpose. Like, when I look back on this year, just to give a more concrete example, I am just blown away by the fact that we did not, my partner and I, along with the amazing team that's behind Arethia's House of Purpose, didn't miss a single third Saturday of every month this whole year. Like, we were on our A game, and it's solely due to the fact that everyone is on the team is passionate about what they do and are confident in their ability to bring about change. And it was not apparent enough to be able to communicate that to someone if they weren't there, but I hope I do it justice in highlighting and recognizing the team, because they go in and out of their way, and it really sparked electricity and was a catalyst uh behind just making change and hope for a better future, greater reality. Just to give you a little backstory, Arethia's House of Purpose is a nonprofit that my partner's grandmother started a few years ago that helps families in need, for shelter, for clothing, for food, mostly clothing and food. But they offered additional resources or access to resources for things like shelter and places to go for more urgent care. But they specialize in clothing donations, professional development, personal development, and just personal growth in general, like really helping a lot of the times young women who may have children, but not disregarding family units that really need the help, just individuals in general or those who are of a family. But needless to say, to reflect back again, like from the beginning of the year all the way till the end, just to give you one last glimmer of excellence, is the fact that when we first started, there was hardly anybody that came to the community events. We would host what was later called Red Bag Sale, the Red Bag Sale. And it was an event that, whenever you show up, you can buy a red bag, and each red bag is worth $5, but you can fill up as many clothes as you can in that red bag. So really, it's a steal. And it took some time. Like, it took probably half the year to get to that idea, working together as a team, as a unit. But that once we figured it out and we started to notice that that was something that really benefited the community, we saw a lot more people coming through. And by the end of the year, when we had our toy drive for the Christmas season, holiday season, there were, I believe, uh, one of the team members shared with me that they helped as much as like 100 families, I think, which includes probably double in number of children when you think about it. And like 100 families, that's a lot of families here in the San Antonio, Texas community. Like, that is beyond amazing. And I just wanted to really recognize that because there are people out there, there are organizations, there are teams that are really making a difference. Sometimes we just live in a world where that's not really emphasized enough and communicated enough, focused on enough. So I do want to give uh, a bright light and share my gratitude to those out there. You are making a difference. Thank you so much for that. And then thank you for allowing me to be a part of it as well. But that's what comes with building connections, new connections, old connections, former connections, recent connections. Like it all is encompassed in one. And if you take anything from this section, take a chance on a new connection, take a chance on strengthening a connection, take a chance on really envisioning what a connection could blossom into. Number three is take inventory of your own life and your own growth and your shortcomings and what you'd like to learn and continuously improve upon as you go. And I really am careful in laying that out in that specific way because our progression, our journeys through life are never going to be linear. And if you haven't had a chance to really dive into personal development and growth, or are just now getting into it, maybe you're a first timer here to this channel, I really try to nail and harp on the fact that our growth is non-linear and it can take any kind of direction at any point in time. And I do this because it gives more reassurance and more comfort in those times where we are at our all-time lows or we are at our most uncertain points of our journeys where we don't know where to go and we don't know what to do. We don't know who we are, even. And believe me, I've been there, all of those three scenarios and much more. So we'll definitely get more into that as the podcast unfolds this year. But yeah, really take inventory. Personal inventory is what I like to call it. And, last year there were moments I went in and out of trying to make the effort to jot down, record, really take inventory of my own life and what I was struggling with and what I just couldn't wrap my head around and what I was not being open to doing or taking a chance on. And it really helped me to make that a more continuous practice. And I didn't always get it right. I didn't always stay on that consistency. I didn't always make it a part of my journey, but those times where I did show up, I want to just say, Jay, I'm really proud of you. And thank you for showing up in the times you were able to. And I want to take this time for you to take a moment to do the exact same thing. You out there, let's let's repeat after me. I am so proud, name, that you were able to show up. And even though it was hard, even though I went through some losses and some heartaches and some pain, growing pains. Even when I was at my lowest, I picked myself back up. And I want to thank you, Name, for that, for allowing me to be where I am at this moment in time. Taking inventory, recording, jotting down, documenting. I know on YouTube I'm such a YouTube freak. Anybody relate? Anybody in the same bandwagon? Okay, good. A lot of times, when you know how YouTube works, it has the algorithms that show you based on what you view, what you would want to see. And I'm always on there. So if you haven't guessed already, a lot of it is personal development stuff. And, you know, I usually see videos of, like how to level up or how to really move past something that's bothering you, your setbacks, my setbacks, what have you, right? And this idea of like taking inventory and documenting, which is what I was circling back to, I started really diving into more of the like film videography, YouTube style people that are on there, like that really make cinematic videos about documenting their life, if you know what I'm talking about. And I just really took an interest to that. I was like, well, maybe I can document my life, or maybe I can start to. And I know a few times last year that is something that I tried to do. Even around Thanksgiving time, I tried to film a day or a week in the life of my life as a quote unquote YouTuber, if I was one. And this idea of, if, you know, those of you out there that are like perfectionists or have a hard time going with the flow or always thinking about your next step or action, this is a good practice to do when that's at an all-time high of like, oh, I'm thinking more than I'm doing. I just need to do more, act more. So I definitely, during the filming process, like I literally, okay, so I filmed everything. I maybe missed like 1 or 2 days, understandably, for the holidays, right? Thanksgiving, disconnected and I told my audience, like quote unquote audience, that I was going to take a break. And then after that, I kind of fell off from there and didn't, bring my camera, all of these things. But in this moment, I could harp on myself and be my biggest critic, which I tend to be. But what I learned from that process and watching it back, little by little, the moments that I had to kind of replay how my day went yesterday, to me, it was like visual journaling and like being able to get things off my chest in that moment, right? Like talk therapy in a way meets visual journaling, free writing, right? And that's how my brain works. And maybe that's how yours does too. Or, somebody that may benefit from that, that their brain works like that. But I just thought I'd give that as a demonstration in laying out this idea of taking inventory. Sometimes it can look different for everybody. One person may love to write everything out and take some time to sip on some tea and listen to lo fi, calming beat music and just take 10 to 15 minutes out of their morning or their day to do that. Believe me, I'm working on trying to get there. Slowing things down, most definitely. But some Others may benefit from sitting down like this and just going for it. Like I literally was starting to get in my inside my brain and not outside my body state before coming on here. And I was just like, Jay, you just hold on. You're going to write down a few bullet points and go for it. So that is my process. And I'm just only going to focus on getting better as I go. I need to learn how to be spontaneous in that way, adaptable, be moldable to the ebb and flow of you have an idea, okay, just get it out and find the best way to do that, to express yourself. So these are just little bits and pieces, fine details of areas of growth, areas of shortcomings, what tends to hold us back from taking action. Like taking inventory of one's own life, like the bigger pictures of things. Like I definitely know being more present is something that I'll dive into in just a second, but that was a more overarching theme in my life that really communicated to me last year, moving into this year. So just take some time, maybe on a weekend when you're not busy or as busy as you would be during the week with work or other responsibilities and obligations you have. But I feel like that is one of the groundworks that we should all focus on laying as this new year unfolds. Number four, and I promise I know this is 40 minutes, but we're going to get there. We're going to get better in due time. But thank you for sticking around this long and hearing me talk. I hope this has brought you some form of value and benefit. Thank you so much. Number four is life is precious. I cannot say that enough. Life is precious. Thank you, Lord. Now, I'll try not to sit with these emotions that are going to come out in a few moments, but I also don't want to elongate because I know it'll have a specific time and place later on. But I just want to highlight that life is precious in the ways where we often forget to give thanks for our existence, for our current abilities, for our opportunities, endless opportunities to just wake and rise every day. Not everybody gets that chance. And I think that really solidifies this next example of an experience that I had, a few experiences, mind you, last year as the year was rolling around. Very unexpected experiences that changed my worldview of mortality and how life is so what's the word? Fin, what? So fine and intricate, but at the same time very delicate and fragile. And the fact that as we get older, we're going to experience mortality and the opposite of what we sometimes hold on to, immortality, our invincibility is compromised, and sometimes we don't always have that. And that was a wake up call for me. I just recently experienced the loss. Well, I wouldn't say loss, but I know for a lot of people out there, this is what we grew up with hearing, that, when somebody passes away, when somebody is tragically killed, or somebody tragically died, um, and they are no longer with us, we consider that a loss. But I have been learning and growing in the area of death and rebirth, both on the spiritual level and on the physical level. And at, up until this point, I have been so uncomfortable with the thought of death and dying. That is actually my number one fear. Not to say that in a way where I'm bringing life to it, but just to share and to connect with those who they're in the same boat. Um, that is one of my top fears. And because it's a top fear of mine, I just really get like my whole nervous system freaks out whenever I talk about or I discuss or it gets brought up in conversation, this idea of dying and what's next, what's after that. We don't know until it happens, right? And not too long ago, along with many of my fellow coworkers, a lot of us had to say goodbye to farewell to a good friend of ours who was literally only like a few years older than me. Like I'm 30, he was 33, I think, at the time, and just turned 33 not too long ago. And then we didn't expect it, but he had unrightfully died at the hands of Build in Orlando. And he was in the audiovisual field as well, but this time around it was for a festival, and festivals are a whole nother beast. I'll get into that another time. But just to summarize and to keep moving along, I just wanted to iterate that I had just seen him like a week and a half, 2 weeks prior to this event that happened. That he was tragically involved in a work related accident and that cost him his life. And I can only go into certain things and not specifics because it's still under investigation and still being looked at. But I, along with a lot of my coworkers, really felt a loss at the time. I didn't know at that time that it was really not a loss, but a beautiful gift in a way where it brought together people across all walks of life, different locations, different areas, globally, even, to really spend a period of time, just processing, finding out what really happened, and expressing how everyone could help the family of my dear friend, our dear friend. And that really spoke to me, that really touched my heart because even though it was hard to come to terms with the fact that he would not be here anymore, and we had just saw him moments before, like it was hard to wrap my head around that. But once that was no longer a part of his story, everything started to lift. And knowing and just choosing to focus on the fact that he is in a better place and he's out there exploring and traveling like through space and time just as he was in this physical world gave us even more of that gift and that present of being present and and knowing that life is precious. So don't waste a moment of it. Be there for other people. He had a memorial and I made sure to be there. I made sure to try my best to be there for the family, for his really close friends. And like you can only do so much, but I really do think that it it was worthwhile and I got to learn more than I ever would have under other circumstances about other people and the people that I worked with and just getting closer in that respect. And I wouldn't have traded the world for that. And I know that our dear friend really is looking down at us and smiling because of that. But it also left me with this lesson of to not wait until tomorrow to do things. And, we never know when it is our time. And it's scary to think about. It's trippy to think about, but, you know, it's part of life and it's part of a reality that we still exist in at this time. And, you know, leaning into a more positive regard for life and for love and for peace and for joy while we're here, and to be able to spread more of that while we're here, and to find our soul tribes that will ignite those natural inclinations to rise above and to be this high functioning, highly spirited being like we were meant to be. Um, really awakened that in myself and in other people around me, and I just started gravitating towards a lot of spiritual people and people who are interested in alternate realities and metaphysics and soul callings and all of these things that just reawakened a lot of things that I was previously interested in before, and I'm still like interested now. Oh, give me one second. Sorry, my cat was coming into the office and she's not allowed on the carpet. Sorry, I had to let me circle back. But all of these like interest of mine just wanted to shoot back up and to really come out to the forefront because, time is precious and life is precious, and that is what we're called to do. That is in different ways, different facets of our existence. We are here to raise the vibration of ourselves and other people, other beings, light forces, and to just do everything that we can and that's in our power while we can. So that's what I wrote down, and also to remember to say I love you. I love you, and to really just take hold of every moment that you're with yourself. I love me. I love Jay. I love with other people. I love you for showing up and for wanting to really make the most of your life and to unlock your truest potential. I love those you who you know who may not be on the same path but are finding their way, and that I love the people that you are going to help and that you are called to meet and cross paths with, and also in regard to my own life and the people that I'm called to meet. So, thank you. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of your time, because time is something we can never give back, get back. but we tend to give the most of it ourselves. So just going back to the previous one, taking inventory, and the previous one before that, building those connections, those genuine connections, and maybe cutting ties with those that are not, really valuing yourself in order to do that, make that a reality. And then circling back to number one, hone in on that craft and on that passion of yours, whether it's professional or personal or both. I recommend both in its divine timing and calling. But a little recap of everything I've mentioned so far. Moving into the very last one. You ready? Number five, don't live in the past or future. Live in the present, the here and now. I think this is a really big one that is really good to finish with, because even throughout all these interconnections and weaving through 1 through 4, these lessons that I have learned over the past year entering into this year, don't live in the past or the future. Rather, live in the present, because the present is all we have, and that's our greatest present is our presence. And to keep it simple, that's literally what makes the world go round, is taking capitalizing on learning how to stay grounded in our bodies, in our spirit, in our divine vessel during times where it can be hard to be present, where our brains are going a million and one miles a second, a minute, when we feel like the weight of the world is crashing down on us, when people take advantage of us, when they steal from us, when they steal our joy and our peace and our comfort, when external things happen to us. But really, I want to challenge that phrase, happens to us. Rather, it's happening for us. Everything is happening for us. When we become grounded in ourselves, when we take time to give thanks for our presence, for our present moments in time, we really start to make sense of everything and why things happen for that reason, for our development, for our constant growth, for our shaping of our character and the way we will live out our lives, to help those who are in need, to help those that could benefit from a past version of ourselves, to help ourselves continue to elevate and rise and awaken into the incredible beings that we were always meant to be. That happens in our present. Don't let our minds fool us into thinking, once I have my life figured out, my future is bright before me. Once I get past all of my past discretion, past um, traumas, and past regression to not regress back, right? Then I'll be secure in my present. But really, both are taking away from our present. And I do believe that it's both necessary and important to always study our past, where we came from, measure our progress up until this point and moving into the future. Have systems that work best for us, that keep us going, that keep us on our toes, that keeps us wanting more, but to not lose sight of who we are in that reach for more, in that pursuit of more, because that is also a dangerous path. I know from experience that is definitely something, having dived deep into the personal development space and going to all these conferences and going to all these personal growth seminars and what have you. Like, I firmly believe at the end of the day that is what works best for me, but it may not work best for everybody. And I have to come to terms with the fact that it doesn't always, it's not always the effective route to take for a lot of people. But I still think that I'm grateful and thankful that there are people and there are spaces out there that continue this tradition of coming together with like-minded people who want to elevate and pursue more than what they currently have and believe in more of themselves and their potential. Um, but I also am learning and growing into, while I do that, while I envision a future that is so abundant and so endlessly filled with potential, I still ground myself in the present and give thanks and gratitude and appreciation for what I have right now. Going into 2025, having laid out everything up until this point, I am filled with a renewed sense of self and who I want to be and who I'm destined to be moving into 2025, knowing future wise what lays before somewhat in terms of politics, in terms of society, in terms of people who will always need a helping hand, people who are at a greater place who want to do more with their advantage, with their lot in life, right? And also the present of feeding the genuine desire for creativity and art and expression. All of these things I know, I have confidence, even though I cannot see other than those things that illuminate the path ahead. I have faith in where there's a will, there's a way. I don't have to understand how, but I have to understand why. And I know that because we can, as an example, is going to be so fruitful and so fulfilling in the fact that I get to show up not only for myself, but for those who are desperately like searching for a community where they can just be themselves and they can have room to process and to find themselves and to cultivate that endless potential that they have for something far beyond their wildest dreams. And I cannot wait to continue on this path with everyone, knowing that it's going to be so amazing every step of the way, living in the present, learning as we grow together, because I am still growing. I'm a beginner at some things and can only hope that I am a guide or a mentor in other areas. And bringing that all together, I hope that this episode has highlighted some areas of your life that maybe you would like to dive more into and to explore and to overcome those fears to do that. And let's just have it be a free flowing process, a no judgment process and space, because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of judging myself. I'm tired of getting in my own way. And I'm certainly tired of being my own greatest critic. Who's with me? If you are, comment I'm here down below, and I'm here to stay down below. Without further ado, this is Because We Can. Thank you for tuning in to 2025, the first episode, and there's going to be so much more. So stay tuned. Don't go away. Come back next week for another episode of Because We Can. And also, if you have time, if you want to, send a message to me. If there's anything that resonated with you in this episode, comment down below or shoot me an email or a voice message or whatever's the best format for you, and tell me an experience that you had in 2024 or a reflection that you have taken away from 2024 going into 2025. And with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one. Stay safe, stay great, and we'll see you soon. Peace.